looking around the room, I'm sure you all know who is Hanuman. There's some audiences I have to introduce who is Hanuman, but this audience I don't. There's a section in Valmiki Ramayana where Kishkindakanda and Sundarakanda intersect. And with the Sundarakanda, that's his journey across the sea to Lanka. There's some highlights about Hanuman. You all know who's Hanuman. Greatest devotee of Ram. He introduced Ramachandra to Sugriva. He was the minister of Sugriva and came on Sugriva's behalf to find out friend or foe, and he immediately understood the best of friends. He went all the way to Lanka to carry the message to Sita that Ram was soon going to arrive and redeem her. He warned purposefully, Ravana, return Sita or you're finished. And that just made him angry. And he ended up setting Lanka on fire, etc., etc., etc. When the younger brother of Ravan, Vibhishan, wanted to take shelter of Ram, there was a big hubbub. Should we accept him? Should we not accept him? What's his motive? What's going on? But Hanuman had a very clear understanding. He's already been accepted because that's the nature of Ramachandra. When they finally made their way back to Ayodhya, he saved Bharata's life because Bharata was going to give up his life because the 14 years had passed and Ram hadn't returned yet, so he rescued his life. Some of you know Madhvacharya. Tomorrow we're observing the disappearance day of Madhvacharya. And Madhvacharya wrote in his the Mahabharata commentary that Hanuman not just was on the flag of Arjuna's chariot, but he was so dear to Krishna that it wasn't just Arjuna that he was speaking to Hanuman on the flag of Arjuna's chariot. And even he's a great hero. Great heroes also face obstacles. We're not great heroes, but we face obstacles. And this is a discussion about the overcoming of the obstacles that he faced when crossing. Now I could skip a little bit of this, but because you all know who is Hanuman, but he, along with many of the demigods who had approached Vishnu for relief because Ravana was a scourge not only of the earthly realm, but even the heavenly realm. And they wanted Lord Vishnu's intervention. And so Lord Vishnu agreed, and he gave an instruction to Lord Brahma to pass on to the demigods that they should appear on earth first. And they should appear by producing children in species that wouldn't go against the boons that Ravana had achieved, and that their offspring would have powers like theirs. So we find the Vanaras had mystical powers because they had powers like the demigods, just as Vishnu had instructed. And one of the demigods is Vayu, and Vayu became the father of Hanuman. And there's a long description of how that happened. But when he was just a small Vanara, a small Hanuman, He was hungry. Children sometimes get hungry, right? And so he saw, looked like the fruit up in the sky. And so he went to chase the fruit in the sky. But as he was reaching and reaching and reaching towards the sun, the demigods became very anxious. And Indra was sent to stop him, and Indra sent a thunderbolt that hit him. And when the thunderbolt hit Hanuman, it stopped his forward motion, and he fell back to earth, and he went crashing back to earth. And when Vayu came to know what happened to his son, Hanuman, Vayu stopped the wind movement in the whole universe, and the demigods became choked up. And the demigods went to Lord Brahma, help, relief, we need to do something. We can't breathe, and the whole universe can't breathe, because Vayu is so angry at what was done to his son. And so they all descended to the mountain top. The painting here shows in a cave. And they all gave their benedictions, and somehow everything became nice again. And through all those benedictions, Hanuman now understood that he had powers beyond even the powers that he had been given by Vayu. So he's a little Vanara, and he was doing little monkey business, including with the rishis, where they were performing sacrifices. He would disrupt their sacrifices and take their paraphernalia and run away with it, and it became a nuisance. And as he became such a nuisance, they uttered a curse. And the curse was that he would forget all of his powers until that time came sometime in the future when someone would remind him of his powers. So he became subdued because he wasn't so powerful anymore. And we don't hear about Hanuman again until this very important juncture of time when, in search for Sita, the Vanaras divided into groups of 4. The group that went south included Hanuman and Angada. And when they reached the far southern part of India, they hadn't found Sita. And so Angada decided, Sugriva is such a cruel master, he'll kill us. I'd rather die fasting. And so he decided to give up his life, and the other Vanaras, except for Hanuman, all decided to sit by the shore of the sea and end their lives fasting. And while they were in that situation, Sampati, who was a vulture, saw lunch. So many Vanaras sitting, lying in a row. And Sampati had lost use of his wings. And there's a long story. I'm sure you know this long story. He had a younger brother, and this younger brother was Jatayu. And they were soaring high in the sky, and as they got closer and closer to the heat of the sun, Sampati was afraid of his younger brother Jatayu being scorched by the sun, so he stretched his wings. His wings burned. Jatayu was protected, but he fell to the earth, wingless or unable to fly. And so it was difficult for him to survive without being able to fly. Jatayu had given up his life, and he heard Sampati, he heard the talks of the Vanaras of how Jatayu had given his life to save Sita. So hearing about his brother, his younger brother, he hobbled his way down from the mountainside and inquired, please tell me what you know about Jatayu. I heard you speaking about Jatayu. And they told the whole story of how Jatayu had given his life to protect Sita, and they were in search of Sita. And did he, Sampati, have any idea where was Sita? And as you know, Vultures have one crowning good quality. They have very good vision. They can see a long distance, so he made his body big. He stood by the shore of the sea, and he looked off 800 miles, and he could see where Sita was, in Lanka, in the Ashok Grove. And he spoke like this to the Vanaras. And the Vanaras then decided that they should do the best they can to go inform Sita. They now know where she is. They were going to inform Ram, and Ram is going to come. And so they were deciding who could carry that message to Sita, to don't give up her life. Ram is coming. So there's a whole discussion. How many could jump 800 miles or 100 yojanas? And so different Vanaras and different Vanaras and different Vanaras, and no one could do it until Jambavan, knowing the power that Hanuman had, reminded Hanuman of his power. And when he reminded Hanuman of his power, then the pledge of the rishis, or the curse of the rishis, was lifted. So now he could remember. And as he remembered, his body got bigger and bigger and bigger. And he's now preparing himself. This is the end of Kishkinda Kanda and the beginning of Sundara Kanda, to make his spiritual journey, or his journey to Lanka. So that's the background of this evening's topic. He doesn't say in any detail anywhere in Valmiki Ramayana how it was that the sun god became his guru. The only indication is that he offered prayers to his guru, the sun god, and to his father before making this leap to Lanka, because he was a dharmic person through and through, and he was preparing himself for a very difficult task. When you have a difficult spiritual task, even a material task, look at what you're doing at this university. So what to speak of the spiritual task, the ultimate task of life? Some preparation is needed. And standing on top of Mount Mahendra, he crouched, and there's a beautiful, beautiful description of how physically and emotionally and spiritually he prepared himself. And a verse that I like from Valmiki Ramayana is this one. Just like an arrow released by Raghava would fly, I too will proceed with the speed of the wind to reach Lanka, ruled by Ravana. Now some of us have some spiritual practices. I have a spiritual practice. I chant the Hare Krishna mantra every day. And usually it's almost always, early in the morning. And I remember this verse, not always, but many, many times, because it's the launching of this sadhana activity of chanting, like an arrow shot from the bow of Ramachandra, speedy, speedy. Let the mind, or let me, go to fulfill the mission that my sadhana practice is meant to accomplish. And so off he went. He drew in his breath, tensed his muscles, and all of a sudden he sprang into the air like an arrow shot from the bow of Lord Ramachandra. So there's beautiful description of the trees became uprooted, and the flowers in the trees that became uprooted were strewn. The demigods are depicted in this painting of showering flowers because they knew what he was doing, and he's making his journey across the ocean. And there's an obstacle. There's more than one obstacle. And one of those obstacles that he met was the obstacle of represented by the mode of goodness. because the mode of goodness, the piety and the fruits of piety can be an obstacle. The obstacle was manifested in the form of Mainaka. Mainaka. Mainaka was a mountain that had previously, during the previous yuga, been rescued by Hanuman's father. Hanuman's father was Vayu. And during the Satya Yuga, it's described in the scriptures that mountains had the ability to fly. I've never seen a flying mountain, but in Satya Yuga they could fly. And when they came in for landing, they would squish everything under their feet, like it's described in Valmiki Ramayana, like an elephant. When he steps, he's not trying to harm anyone, but he steps on things and things get squished. And so those who were getting squished went to the demigods and said, "Relief, please do something." So Indra got the assignment. He took his thunderbolt weapon and was clipping the wings of the mountains so they couldn't fly anymore. And when he was chasing Mainaka to clip his wings, Vayu had a friendship. Vayu, with his wind capacity, blew him into the sea. And he was protected because Indra's thunderbolt weapon couldn't reach him in the sea. And so Mainaka felt some obligation. Having received the special kindness of his father, he wanted to do something to reciprocate. Knowing that the Samudra, the god of the sea, also felt the same gratitude towards the predecessor, one of the ancestors or in the lineage of Lord Ramachandra, Sagara, had done some kind service for him. 2 kind services. When they were searching, when Sagara was searching for the sons that had been taken and burned by the fire of Kapila Dev, he was searching and searching and searching for the horse, the sacrificial horse. And in searching and searching, they expanded, Sagara and his men expanded the sea. And then later, when Agastya was drying up the sea with anger, Sagara helped replenish the sea. So Sagara wanted to return the kindness that he had received. This is a mode of goodness message. When you receive kindness from others, it's a dharmic principle that you should do something in appreciation out of gratitude. So when Mainaka was approached by Sagara, please do something for Hanuman. I know you have the same feeling that I do. Let's do something that's an act of kindness and out of gratitude for benefits that received, not directly even by Hanuman, but those related to the ancestor of Hanuman and the ancestor of who Hanuman was serving. So benefit was going to them, just like many of us have received something from our predecessors, from our parents or some lineage of persons who have given us gifts and endowments. And it's a Sanatan Dharma principle we're going to hear shortly from Valmiki Ramayana, that it's to be reciprocated with. So Samudra went to Mainaka, said, "Can you please rise with this golden dome at the top and provide a little rest, because he has a long journey to go all the way to Lanka. He may need some refreshments and he may need to rest a bit." So Mainaka rose from the sea in a big loud noise, and he rose from the sea, making a request. Like an obstruction, but making a request. And the request, here it is from Valmiki Ramayana, from Sundarakanda. Krite cha pratikartavyam esha dharma sanatanaha. So Sanatan Dharma is a principle of Sanatan Dharma. When you have received something, to acknowledge a kindness that has been rendered unto you, you should do something in reciprocation. You should pay back. And that's the Sanatan Dharma principle. Based upon that Sanatan Dharma principle, I've come, please take rest, please have some refreshments, etc., etc. So repeatedly, Mainaka was expressing this, but what was Hanuman to do? Because he had a very important service to do, but he didn't want to be disrespectful to one who was offering this act of kindness. And so what did he do? He reached over and touched Mainaka and said, "Thank you so much, but I have an important service to do. Please allow me to continue." The same Sanskrit phrase about being grateful is expressed in the Mahabharata, because Mahabharata chronologically came after Ramchandra's pastimes. So there are sections in Mahabharata where activities in Ramayana are described. And one of those activities in Mahabharata is when Lakshman goes to Sugriva to chastise him for being negligent. Your wife has been restored, your kingdom has been restored, and now you're neglecting to fulfill your promise, your pledge to Ramachandra. How ungrateful are you? Here's the Sanskrit. Lakshman quoted Lord Brahma, who became angry upon seeing an ungrateful person. Atonements have been prescribed for one who kills a brahmana, one who drinks liquor, one who commits theft, and one who violates a sacred vow, but not one who is ungrateful. The principle of gratitude and refraining from being ungrateful is a lesson. Now, what to do when you have some very, very important service to do, and here comes an opportunity. It's essentially, when you do some act of piety, what happens? There's fruits of piety. And fruits of piety may come in terms of wealth, or fruits of piety may come in terms of knowledge and honor because of either the wealth or the knowledge. And persons may want to honor you, and it's very easy to become self-indulgent and lose your concentration or your higher mission, higher purpose of life. So this is a nice painting that shows Mainaka still with his wings and Hanuman reaching over and just touching the peak and saying, "With gratitude, I understand the service that you want to render, but please permit me to carry on because I have very important service to do on behalf of Ramachandra." And so Mainaka, was feeling satisfied. His gesture was acknowledged gracefully. It wasn't just no, no, no. It wasn't just dismissive, nor was it the result of complacency, because it can happen. Fruits of piety can make one complacent, or indulgent, or distracted. So continue being pious, and beware that when you're continuing to be pious, fruits of piety will come. Let those fruits of piety not interfere with your spiritual journey. Act with grace and acumen like Hanuman did. So I'm unable to stop. I have a service to do for my master Sugriva and for Ramachandra. I must carry on. So please allow me to carry on. That's an obstacle in spiritual journey number one. Fruits of piety. Continue being pious. Continue being virtuous. Continue acting with ideal character. And don't be distracted from the spiritual mission. Okay, so here's I added a little message. This is not Hanuman. This is Brihat Bhagavatamrita. So this is the cherry on top of the ice cream on top of the cake. Brihat Bhagavatamrita is a writing by Sanatana Goswami. It's a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, there's two parts. And one of the parts is a young cowherd boy named Gopa Kumar. Young cowherd boy, Gopa Kumar. And the painting shows that he receives a mantra from a guru. In the course of being a cowherd boy in Vrindavan, he sees this sadhu. He becomes very attracted to the sadhu. He requests the sadhu for diksha. After examining Gopa Kumar, he gives him diksha and tells him this mantra will give you so much benefit, and describes the benefits that he'll receive. As a result of the benefits of chanting his mantra, he has these very amazing experiences where he goes to higher and higher and higher and higher realms. And one of those higher realms that he reaches is Tapaloka. Some of you know something about cosmology. So Tapaloka is far above Swarga. Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, just below Brahmaloka. And in Tapaloka, the residents of Tapaloka are engaged in meditation, and in their meditation, they see the form of the Lord. So they try to advise Gopakumar, you don't need to chant this mantra, because the goal of chanting the mantra is to see the Supreme Lord. But we see the Supreme Lord all the time, so just that will teach you how to do this meditation process, and you don't need your mantra anymore. So he likes it. It's very, very powerful. But he understands there's something special about this mantra that was given by my guru, and I would be, same principle, ungrateful. I couldn't properly acknowledge the gift that I've been given by my guru if I didn't experience the fullness of what that gift can give. So he never stopped chanting his mantra. And in chanting his mantra, it wasn't just a mechanical chanting, it was the spiritual journey. Spiritual journey continued despite the kindness that had been offered to him by the residents of Tapaloka. So he showed this high character. And then as he's continuing in his journey, there's obstacle number 2. The obstacle number 2 is beyond his character, that demigods had this idea. He's going to encounter many further difficulties once he reaches Lanka. What's his strength? What's his prowess? What's his capacity to deal with obstacles of passion? And so they approached Surasa. Surasa is the demigoddess of the Nagas, the queen of the Nagas. And they asked her to assume a huge form and block Hanuman from passing and see what he'll do. And so, sure enough, Surasa said, very well. And she manifested this gigantic, deformed figure and stood in front with her mouth wide open and said to Hanuman, I have a benediction from Lord Brahma. And the benediction from Lord Brahma is that no one can pass by without entering into my mouth and being devoured by me. So you can't pass. And she got big and big and big, big as a mountain. And so Hanuman, having mystic powers, he made his body very, very big. And as he made his body very, very big, she made her mouth bigger. And the whole description, who got bigger and who got bigger and who got bigger. And eventually, 20 miles was the expanse of her mouth. And Hanuman then all of a sudden made himself, all the while he's smiling, he's not disturbed or perturbed or angry or violent when his spiritual mission is being obstructed by Surasa. He used his intelligence and his powers, and after making himself really, really, really big, he suddenly made himself very small. He entered into Surasa's mouth, and as you see in the painting, he came out her ear. And he stood before her, having coming out her ear, and said, the benediction that Lord Brahma has given has now been fulfilled. I entered your mouth. Now please let me pass. And Surasa was really impressed with how he had done. And I wish you well. So Surasa, here's another nice painting. The sages were watching because this had all happened because the sages and the demigods wanted to see the extent of Hanuman's powers and his intelligence to deal with obstacles he's going to face once he reaches Lanka. And so rather than getting into combative or retaliatory spirit, this is a lesson about your spiritual journey. Use wisdom, use intelligence, stay in this proper mood of achieving your spiritual objective. And of course, it helps to have mystic powers. Don't submit to passion. Stay in the proper mood. And sure enough, the Surasa assumed her Naga goddess form, praised Hanuman, blessed him that he would be successful. And this is the section where it's all described in Ramayana. Now bring this from Ramayana to the worldly level. There's a nice saying, maybe you've heard this one before. A Lutheran theologian, I showed this one time at some other forum than IIT. And with this phrase from this Lutheran theologian, persons in the audience told me that Alcoholics Anonymous use this phrase. They help people that have an addiction to overcome their addiction. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Good. Very appropriate for this second type of obstacle when you're on a spiritual journey, that which represents passion. And the third is representing ignorance. That's simhika. Going way back in the Kishkinda Kanda, Sugriva told Hanuman, you're heading in the southern direction. You may encounter this terrible demoness, Simhika. Beware. She's very violent. She's very cruel. Don't mess with Simhika. Beware. So he met her. And she had this power, as you see from the illustration. She could capture the forward movement of others by their shadow. So as according to Ramayana, the height of Hanuman's travel was in an upper region, Bhuvar and Swargaloka. He was moving in the Bhuvar Loka region. But above Bhuvar Loka is the sun, and the sun planet was casting his shadow on the sea. So Simhika held his forward movement by capturing his shadow. So as he was zooming along, he felt that his forward progress was being checked. Here's this description of Kishkinda Kanda and Sugriva informing Hanuman, beware of this wicked demon. So his movement not only was checked, but he started going down. And there was Simhika with her mouth wide open, ready to swallow him. Now, with Surasa, there was some exchange. With Simhika, there was no exchange. She was in the super tamagun mode. She simply wanted to eat him. So, same thing, he became large. Her mouth became larger and larger. He entered into her mouth and ripped open the entrails within her body and left through her heart, big hole in her chest. And she instantly fell into the water and died. When you're on a spiritual journey and you encounter people that are very dangerous like this, you take proper action. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be a Kshatriya. Hanuman had that capacity, but you do the needful. So there's different, in any journey, in a spiritual journey included, there's going to be obstacles. Some representing goodness obstacles, passion obstacles, and ignorance obstacles. He dealt with the ignorance obstacle very effectively. The demigods saw all this. They knew how wicked Simhika was and exclaimed, Hanuman was created by Brahma just for the purpose of killing this terrible Simhika. So a little bit more about the obstacle that Simhika represents. She's the personification of life or principles of life that are against progressive spiritual life. Vikarma, nothing but vikarma, and filled with envy. Mentioned this power that she had. Chaya grahi. She could stop person's forward motion just by their chaya, by their shadow. These are obstacles in the mode of ignorance, and he dealt with it very nicely. No conversation, just dealt with her, finished her quickly. And while doing so, in each of these, very important principle. When you're on a spiritual journey, keep your mind always fixed on the purpose of the spiritual journey. Whether it's the fruits of piety are coming before you, or the fruits of the actions, the mode of passion is coming before you, or the mode of ignorance is coming before you. Smartavya satatam Vishnu or Vismartavya najata chit from Padma Purana. Many of you know the verse. Sarva vidhi dasedha shur etayor vikinkara. The vidhis, sarva vidhis, all the rules and regulations of all spiritual injunctions have one purpose. Always remember Vishnu, never forget Vishnu. And he was able to accomplish that through these three obstacles, and we have one more obstacle remaining. And that's the protectress of Lanka. Once he reached the shore of Lanka, he was greeted by Lankini, And Lankini came before him. She looks pretty big, with a big club in her head, and told him, "Get out of here. I'm in charge." He came at night, because it took most of the day to get there. And at night, Rakshasas and Rakshasis become even more powerful. And she was a hideous personality, the presiding deity of Lanka. And one of the first things she did was she hit him with her fist. Now, when she hit him with her fist, that doesn't hurt Hanuman. But immediately with that blow, Hanuman became furious, and he clenched his fist, and not with his full might, but just enough to knock her over. He socked her one. And when she was hit by the fist of Hanuman, she fell to the ground. And when she fell to the ground, she remembered a message that she had heard from Lord Brahma. That day will come when a Vanar will come, and the end of the Rakshasa dynasty will be marked by this. So when he socked her one, she fell to the ground, and she then stood and folded palms. She gave him entrance into the kingdom. She begged that her life would be spared, but she knew the destruction of the Rakshasa dynasty was about to take place. She just disappeared. She didn't just disappear. She went into the city of Lanka to inform Ravana. But she knew that the consequence of his arrival. Now, Ravana was such a personality that he didn't heed any signs or any indications or anything because of his pride and his power and his position of being willing to do anything to get anything he wanted, and no one could stop him as far as he was concerned. So this Lankini represents the obstacle of false ego. Besides the modes of nature, she exhibited both the false, the bodily conception, I am the form that's protecting the whole of Lanka, the protectress of Lanka. So the body, the mind, I'm the protector of the city, and in obedience to the orders of the great demon king Ravana, I am protecting this unassailable city. So, Kartaham, I'm the doer, and I'm this body, and this kingdom is under my protection. So there are some people like that are so deeply immersed in false ego and the bodily conception of life. What do you do about that when you're on a spiritual journey? If you're Hanuman, you do what Hanuman did. And if you're not Hanuman, what are you going to do? Depends on the circumstance. But you stay fixed in the spiritual conception. I just came across a very nice explanation from Padma Purana. And it's when Lord Nrsingadev, before Lord Nrsingadev appeared, Hiranyakashipu saw that his son was just the opposite of himself. He wanted his son to be like him. Fathers like their sons to be like the father. But he was just the opposite. He was a lover of Vishnu. So when he understood he was incorrigible, he was too much devoted to Vishnu, he wanted to kill him. So in Padma Purana, it describes that he had Prahlad attacked with weapons. So the verse in Padma Purana says that he was offering prayers to the weapons, saying, I know that within each of you as weapons, there's a form of Vishnu situated at the center. And because Vishnu is situated at the center, these weapons cannot harm me. Now, we're not Hanuman and we're not Prahlad. And whatever you are, instead of what you aren't, always remember your purpose of your spiritual journey, the purpose of life. Because human form of life is meant for this perfection or completion of all the activities of the cycles of birth and death through the so many different species. So you're all on some track, a university track of career development and so forth and so on. Don't forget the ultimate purpose while you're going through those things. Because if you forget your ultimate purpose, you know what the consequence is. You get immersed in the flow of the material energy, and the flow of the material energy will carry you along with the flow of the material energy, and the mission of human life won't be accomplished, and it's a rough ride. Guaranteed. With waves, there's some ups, and there's some downs. And there isn't much you can do about the ups and the downs as long as you buy into the material purpose of life. So this whole organization, the whole topic, the theme for this semester is the spiritualist's journey. And there's going to be obstacles. Okay, this is the last slide. Lankini, not only she represented this false ego principle, but the unwillingness to achieve saintly association. I mean, when she understood who Hanuman was, she could have, taken shelter of him and asked him for his wisdom and his kindness. Instead, she just submitted, please spare my life. I'm going to go tell Ravana that you've arrived. And she disappeared. So when there's opportunity for spiritual association in your spiritual journey, take it. And take it means you assimilate the messages. So just like, let's go through it again quickly and then I'm finished for this evening. Obstacles in the modes of nature. Goodness, passion, and ignorance, and ultimately behind that false ego and the obstinate disposition of refusing saintly association, Lankini. So, welcome to the spiritual journey. Welcome to the facing of obstacles, because we all face them. It's not that because I'm a sannyasi, I don't face them. Only you guys face them. It's not like that. We all face. But then, how do you deal with it? So, there are different types of obstacles, and Hanuman is showing the way. It's embedded. There's a much longer version. I scrunched this down to fit in the time space that we have. But there's lessons from Hanuman's activities that teach us how to live our lives in the spiritual journey that we're on. So let's see if there's some discussion. Not bad within I kept the time limit.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So thank you so much for this discussion. I think it really gave us lots of examples, how Hanuman dealt with different obstacles in each mode of nature. And my question is, like, in life, we also have to deal with such obstacles, different modes of nature requiring different modes of action. But, in some cases, it's very difficult to control our mind, and we essentially lose track of our goal or our tattva, right? So how is it that we still maintain that right consciousness to handle the situation without it affecting, ourselves? Because I think that's something that, we all can relate to.
Classic question. Simple. It's practice. Abhyasa yogi yoktena cetasa nanyagamino. It takes to persevere, some determination is required. To strengthen your determination, it takes regulation, that's mode of goodness. And I like Patanjali Yoga Sutras because it says it in 3 words. Something that you do, get strength of determination from spiritual practice that you do every day, 3 things. For a prolonged period of time, daily, for a long period of time. And the third element is where you have a sense, you have some conviction that's going to take you to a good place, the place where you want to be. And you do that every day for a prolonged period of time with that confidence and conviction, and it takes you there. That is to say, the distractions tendency diminishes and the awakened tendency flourishes. There are different ways of saying the same thing, but that's a nice simple way of saying the same thing. There needs to be a spiritual practice that you do that gives you that determination. That's supposing I don't have it yet. So how am I going to do a practice if I don't have that determination yet? Keep the association of those that do. That's another principle. Sadhu Sangha principle. From Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives that teaching. Sangat sanjayate kama. One develops desires or likings or tendencies according to the Sangha that you keep. So keep the Sangha or the association of persons that have strength and determination. You not meet keep good wholesome association and stay in close company with them. And then keep your daily devotional practice, whatever that is. That generally speaking, it's sound vibration is most effective. That's a very simple answer. Your question is like the whole process of devotional life. Anyone else? I'm not used to such a big room. The room that I'm used to meeting in is much smaller than this. Is it because the club has grown and you need more space? I guess you're used to it. You go. This is one of your regular classrooms, right? 3 screens. Woo woo. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, my question is, gratitude seems to be like reciprocation seems to be a two-way street, right? So I am trying to express my gratitude, and then the other person also has to understand what I'm trying to do. So how did Hanuman know like what the correct way of reciprocating was in the first example? Because he just touched and then he left saying that, okay, I have a higher purpose. What if that personality was dissatisfied with that? What if they thought the reciprocation was not strong enough?
The answer to your question is it takes intelligence. Intelligence is the discriminating factor within. So Hanuman had that intelligence. So we don't always know, but Hanuman knew. But on the balance side, the pan scale balance side, he knew what his mission was. find Sita, inform Sita, Ram is going to come and redeem you. Don't take your life, don't panic, don't get discouraged. Ram is coming soon. That higher principle gave him the capacity to have the intelligence how to do the right thing in the right way. You stay fixed on your mission of life, you're going to get higher intelligence from Super Soul within. And otherwise, and less than that, it's mediocre. We're sometimes going to get it right and sometimes not.
Got it. May I ask another question?
Sure.
Okay. Why did the demigods even want to test Hanuman to begin with? Didn't they realize he's a surrender?
Loving. It was loving. I mean, they understand Hanuman's power. They gave him their powers. He's like super powerful, cumulative, combined of many demigods in one. So when he gets to Lanka, he's going to have big obstacles. Let us see, let him exhibit his competence. We'll give him a little exam, the competence exam, a quiz before the final exam. Kind of thing.
Maharaj, thank you for this wonderful class. I was just thinking about this, one of the last points that you were talking about, the prayer of Prahlad Maharaj when the weapons were hitting him. In that context, I want to ask you, is Super Soul, does he reciprocate personally, or
Oh, yes.
or he just
Not just personal. Very personal. Very personal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. I had a quick clarifying question. So the two demonesses, there's one that represented the mode of passion, was the first one, and then the
No,
second,
mode of goodness was first one.
I'm sorry, goodness, and then there was passion, and then there was,
Surasa, and
And
then
then-
Simhika.
right, it was mode of ignorance. So
Yeah.
my question relates to mode of passion and ignorance. So my understanding was he dealt with the mode of passion by making himself smaller, not fighting, resisting the
Yeah.
urge to get angry.
He didn't get into a big, fight.
Right. So
He used his intelligence. He stayed specifically that he stayed in this smiling mood. He wasn't disturbed and agitated. So he's in the higher consciousness place, and he not necessarily he understood. Oh, this is the demigods wanting to test my prowess, or my gifts. How I'm going to deal with bigger problems later. He just dealt with it as it came. But the character of Surasa was not the same as Simhika, so he had that intellect.
got it. Okay. Because I was just confused as to why, how he could tell that she was, in the mode of passion, his test
Super
was,
soul.
okay.
Intelligence.
And then when he came to the next one, which was mode of ignorance, who was also, threatening his life, he took action and he fought her and killed her.
Oh yeah, but he didn't no dialogue, no reasoning, no discussion. He just finished her. We're not necessarily going to do that with people that we encounter, but you don't mess. When it's mode of ignorance, a dangerous person, you don't mess. You do.
So just to summarize, then, when we're in these types of situations, we can use our intellect to understand if one is in the mode of passion testing our anger, our reaction, and then, or if it's more in the mode of, you can't really, it's like mode of ignorance, like you can't really do anything fruitful, you can't solve the situation, therefore you have to like either fight or remove yourself. Is
Yes,
that kind
exactly. As you're speaking, I'm thinking of a more contemporary situation. And the more contemporary situation was in the life of Bhakti Siddhanta. Now, many of you know that Bhakti Siddhanta was the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada. And this year, there's the 150th anniversary of his appearance. And Modi, and there was a big festival in India in honor of the 150th anniversary of Bhakti Siddhanta's appearance. So I'm going to say something about Bhakti Siddhanta and his dealing with the mode of ignorance. And he disappeared. But it was, so he was, two things. He was very strong. He was known as the Sringha Guru. When he would walk along the street, people that were cheaters would go on the other side of the street because he would confront them and challenge them. And this is a detail. His father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, established the fact that the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not where people were saying it was. There's details of how that happened, but his son, Bhaktisiddhanta, was teaching the same. And this is in Bengal, and the people whose livelihood was dependent upon a misunderstanding, a deliberate misunderstanding, he was a threat. Bhaktisiddhanta was a threat to their livelihood. So they decided to kill him. They went to the police and said, we plan to kill this person. Please don't do anything. Here's a bribe. Look the other way. And they said, we take bribes, but he's a sadhu. We can't take a bribe because he's a sadhu. But we won't interfere. So with that, they were doing Sankirtan, congregational chanting in Navadvip. And the Gundas came with their weapons to attack the devotees, and they knew who Bhaktisiddhanta was because there he was with his danda and his sannyas attire. And one of his assistants, who was a grahastha of about the same stature, pulled him to the side and said, they want you. Let us change clothes. He was a grahastha. So Bhaktisiddhanta wore his grahastha clothes. The grahastha wore his sannyas clothes, and Bhaktisiddhanta disappeared. And there was a big fight, and the Gundas did what the Gundas did, and it was all over the newspapers. The police caught the Gundas, they caught the Pandits who had hired the Gundas, and they came to Bhaktisiddhanta's headquarters, and they asked him if he wanted to press charges. We have the people that did this. And his reply to the police was, we're very grateful. We never could have gotten the kind of publicity we got. So we're very grateful. So I don't want to press charges. He didn't want to get retaliatory. He just, but he went to get protected. He accepted the plan. Now that person, it's a detail that you'll appreciate. The person that was the grahastha at the time later became a sannyasi. His sannyas name was Keshava Maharaj, who became Prabhupada's sannyas guru in Mathura. It's a detail. But so contemporary persons also may have to deal with ignorance, life-threatening situations, and you do the needful. Either combat or you leave the place.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we should end. We're ready to end? So who does the closing remarks? You're going to do the closing remarks. Okay. You got a microphone? Here's a microphone.
Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for this evening's talk. It was the evening talk and the discussion that we had just now was very insightful. It's just something that, like, some takeaways, I guess. Just similar to Hanuman's unwavering focus amidst all the temptations of comfort from Menaka, the trials of Surasa, and the envy of Simhika, we must strive to stay dedicated to our goals, maintain patience and tranquility against doubters while steering clear of those envious of our progress. And personally, I strongly believe that such resilience and focus are very invaluable traits for us to absorb into ourselves as students who are navigating not only academic journeys as well as our spiritual journeys. Thank you so much, Maharaj. If you could get a round of applause.